Hello and welcome back to the M3DM Taverb. Got a fun shift planned today. Really cool request I know you guys are going to love, so I'm excited for this one. As of now, we're going to warm up, settle in, get a snack, a drink, and we'll kind of get rolling here. If y'all aren't already, make sure that you pop into our Discord under project references. We're working on the Duality Seraph today as the Tavern Keeper's Craft, and it's pretty much a half angel, half demon, classic split down the middle. It's gonna be pretty cool. Also, today is my 12th day in a row live streaming, so that's kind of cool. I'm not really sure why I'm maintaining a streak. It's just kind of becoming a thing, so let's see how long it goes. And then good morning / afternoon to Satyr, Rob, and Reaper, and Just Lingual. Thank you guys for all being here and already hanging out. And Aloha, of course. All right, also we have a question of the day, and I'm really curious for your guys' input. It's your ideal DM prioritizes immersive storytelling / world building, tactical and challenging encounters, player agency / improvisation, or it must be a well-mixed balance of all of them. Personally, it's gotta be player agency and improv. If I feel like I'm being railroaded, it just kills the whole point of a tabletop game for me. I really don't mind if the encounters are hit and miss as far as combat goes. And honestly, I can deal with a pretty samey fantasy world. It doesn't have to be like this unique, groundbreaking idea. But if I feel like I can't, like my character can't shape the story and some improv can't happen, I just kind of, meh. It's not as inspiring for me. Satyr says, it's funny because for however much I hear people lament the lack of rules or structure for social encounters in 5e, I've known infinitely more people to say RP is more fun than combat. This is true. This is true. As of now, the overwhelming majority of you guys vote it must be a well-mixed balance of all of them. And it's true, because that's your ideal DM. But I also think many of you guys are DMs, so you strive to do your best. I love that. Alrighty. Well, go ahead and filter in, chat amongst yourselves. I have a couple assets I'm going to be preparing on the side here. So that's how I'm going to start with my warm-up here. Let's get rolling. So again, this is our warm-up. We're not working on the craft just yet, but we will in about 20 minutes or so. For the beginning here, I'm actually going to be making some druidy, leafy elf clothes to add to my asset library for later. You know, I'm actually going to make a ZPR for that called asset creation. I'm going to copy this tool just for the bodies. Paste tool. Can't paste the tool if you didn't copy it in the first place. Fun fact. All right, here's my beginning ZPR. I'm going to just take the bodies here, copy, and now opening my new one. So this is going to be a default ZPR. That means I don't have to delete all of my asset libraries from it. I can just work here. Look how gnarly that looks without good lighting. Ugh, let's fix that. I'll change the material to skin shade. Add some ambient occlusion, and then fix our scene. I know it's one of the biggest things that frustrates my students is like, why does my model look so ugly? And I'm like, it's just lighting, honey. Don't worry about it. Just like real life. All right, here we go. Asset creation. Perfect. Rob mentions it does need to be a balance though, because D&D at its core is a combat simulator. There are plenty of other systems that have better roleplay mechanics. Railroading is definitely the worst though. Yeah, agreed. And that's true, I did specify DM, not GM, so I kind of picked the system for y'all in the question. Rob says, I'm currently a player in a pre-written campaign. I'm really disappointed in my DM's ability to go off book. Yeah, I get that. I've had some good friends, you know, and I know what you're talking about. I don't want to say anything mean on stream, you know, because we love our friends and they're doing their best, and being a DM is a lot of work, but my goodness. Empress is here. Hey. It is raining so hard outside. I'm curious if you guys can hear it through my mic. Alrighty. So yeah, I've got some assets I'm going to start creating here on the side. But y'all don't need to worry about that. That's just kind of a little fun thing that I'm doing right now. But it's not going to be affecting the main event today. So I've decided during my warm-up, that wasn't, wrong mask, exact opposite what I wanted. I've decided that during my warm-up here, I'm going to just create little one-off assets. So we can start the stream with something fresh, and those that are also kind of learning 3D in the background, we'll see like more start to finish process, which I think is really, really important. Here we go. RB Gaming's here too. Hello, welcome in, guys. And then Zader brings up, I think it used to be a combat simulator, and while that is still how the rules are designed, it's not really how it's played anymore. This is true. That's the heart of the Mercer effect. D&D is so cool, because I can truly agree with all of y'all and disagree with all of y'all. Like, it really just depends with how you want to play that game and what style you want to play. Because I know some people really do prefer that old school grit still. Totally an option and a valid way to play. Man, you guys have really, that's a great conversation. I'm gonna have to stop reading the chat, otherwise I'm gonna get nothing done. But continue, discuss amongst yourselves. I love it. So right now I'm kind of blocking out a shape here for kind of like some leafy armor. And we're initially gonna get all the pieces laid down first, and then we'll worry about actually detailing it and make it look all leafy. I haven't been awake for terribly long. I mean, a few hours. So my voice is still very, very scratchy. Bear with me. It's good to see you guys so opinionated on the question of the day, though. That is the whole purpose of it, so. Good to see it working as intended. I do have some pieces in my asset library that already kind of look like this. However, they're terribly outdated, and it's definitely well overdue to make some new ones. I'm going to start pushing myself to do a lot more of that in the upcoming months, because it's great that I've improved, but now that means my asset library is completely outdated again. So I need to start making stuff with at my current skill set. Another thing I'm going to start incorporating is color into my asset library to start with. So these are going to be nice and simple and low poly, but they're also going to be exported with color. So we can get our models blocked out even more quickly. So it's no surprise that in the last few months or so, my Patreon and just my art business in general has grown immensely, which means I have a lot more requests coming in that I'm used to, which is fantastic. As of now, I am churning through the requests faster than they're coming in, barely. But I see as things kind of progress, it behooves me to get not necessarily like faster in a rushy way, but like more efficient. So I'm spending some extra time thinking about ways I can streamline that. And ironically, in the beginning, it'll actually look like making characters slower. Building an even stronger asset library with my updated skill set is going to be very, very important. Which is good. It's a win-win. More custom models for everyone, and I get to just keep making lots of work that I'm proud of. And it's interesting because as I get more requests, in order to work faster, I actually need to spend more time for each model so these assets are more versatile and reusable. It's a cool problem to have, honestly. I also have more mentorship students as of late that are a higher skill level. So even more reason for me to kind of figure this out so I can then pass that information on to them. There we go, it's coming together. And again, you'll notice I'm keeping it very, very simple. That way I can, and not simple like in so much in details, or in shape. I want interesting shape. But in details, I'm really keeping it light because I want to be able to iterate off of this piece. That's what makes it a nice base mesh or asset I can reuse in the future. Yeah, Ricky says, oh man, Maverick is snoring big time. Yeah, he is. Oh, Mini Blaze is back. Hi, welcome back. Hey guys, still unpacking but watching on Reddit. Rabbit. Tablet. There we go. I was like, that doesn't make sense either way. Enfer says, doing this today, do you ever just contemplate taking a week and beefing up the asset library? Just roaming the net art station looking for pieces like fashion shopping. I have thought about it, but the reality is I might as well spend that time putting it towards a character. Like in my head, that sounds more efficient. And then I realize it's not. But I really have thought about that exactly. Very good question. So you guys obviously play a lot of tabletop games. Nerds, love it. What system are you guys playing the most right now? I'm really quite limited. It's just been D&D for me. Not really on my own choice necessarily, but that's what was at the table, so that's what I played. To be clear, not that I minded it. Yeah, I think it's great. I just haven't had much experience with other systems. All right, so right now I'm kind of pushing this to look a little more interesting. And I think something I'm going to do is merging my shoulder pieces onto specific bodices and then mix and matching from there instead. That's just something I'm toying with. We'll see if I end up implementing that into my asset library. My asset library definitely is due for a significant overhaul, which I am somewhat putting off. Oh, Maverick. Goodness. That's a good snore. That's a really good snore. It's raining really hard out here, and whenever it rains, I swear it really puts the little dude to sleep. If you're in our Discord server, make sure you go to pet pictures. I posted a picture of him last night with his new blankie, and he's very happy. It's all fresh, ready to be dog stinked again. Just Lingual says, I mostly play D&D 5e and Mothership. This is why I ask you guys this question somewhat often, because you're still saying tabletop games I have never heard of before. Very cool. Emperor says, I don't play any TTRPGs. I do study them for other reasons. My hubby, though, does play Pathfinder 2e. I think he's touched one of the D&D ones, and he plays a lot of Warhammer. You know, Warhammer is one of those things where I know I'd like it. I have free time right now, and I don't need even more things on my taking up my time. Very cool. Very cool. All right, let's add another trim piece here or something to make this shape a little more interesting, because it's kind of a fun balance if I want this to be like a really nicely developed base mesh, but it can't be too complicated. Otherwise it defeats it, or it has to be customizable. So I'm trying to say. So I'm going to create some more pieces for this that will layer, kind of trying things out. We're seeing how complicated I can get without just creating more work for myself in the future. Yeah, I think this could be fun. Let's go ahead and lighten that up. These need to be poly painted, that really dark shade here. Perfect. And then one of my favorite things to do is to make like one nice scale and then kind of duplicate it down a mesh. I always find it really satisfying and it looks cool. There we go, a little plate there. And then click and drag and then duplicate all the way down. That's a little too detailed, so let's come down a little bit. There we go, that's somewhat better. And then I can really fine tune these using my Move Topological brush. So I know that plate will need to be on top, and I can snug these other ones up by hand. I might need one more to kind of bridge this gap here. We're a little more than halfway through our warm-up, and I'm feeling warmed up. So mission accomplished. There we are. It's kind of cool. And then maybe even some pieces on the side here that I can play with. Yoni's here. Good morning, morning. I really just love the way it's kind of becoming like a routine for all of us to kind of hang out, you know? It definitely helps that I've been streaming more or less the same time every day. Initially, it wasn't intentional. This is kind of just a rhythm that it fell into. So right now I'm trying to add a little bit more visual interest on the sides here, something that I can layer and play with. This is probably about as complicated as I want this mesh to be. I probably will save it off into its own piece now. The one thing that's missing is I would like to add a border to this. A really quick way to do that is go to Stroke and then Frame Mesh. I talk about curved brushes and how cool they are, and this is why, because you can click and it just simulates it. So that was curved too, I didn't mean for that one. But all I have to do is click the brush that I want, click and tap, and it will auto update live. It's pretty darn cool. So in this case, I only need this bottom one here, and then we'll go ahead and merge that to these other trim pieces. The best part is, let's say if you pose and these get all like goofed up and wonky, it doesn't matter because it only takes a button click to replace them. There we go. Got our trim pieces, and I can easily kind of make these either like a bark add-on or something leafy. I just know it's gonna be something cool, a little bit of visual interest. And for says, looks like someone went and hunted a tree spirit. Absolutely, and that's kind of in my mind because I've been playing an outrageous amount of Monster Hunter recently. I kind of fell off of it for a little bit, but not intentionally, just got busy. Honestly, even now, a lot of times when it says that I'm online, I'm kind of out, and I'm very easily distracted. You'll notice I'm adding a lot of different layers here, and that's because I want it to be not detailed, but very versatile. So if I want to make a bunch of new shirts from this, I can by like hiding, and instead of creating new elements, all I have to do is hide elements that are already pre-existing. All right, I think this is good. We now have a really solid base mesh I can do a lot with. And the best part is, only took me like 15 minutes. Excellent. This would have taken me like an hour a year ago, I swear. Oh, and then a reminder, that there was a new freebie on Patreon. I figured I'd pick a really fun one for the end of the month here, and I picked the baby fairy dragon. If you're already a patron, that means you also get the adult fairy dragons. They're like a little duo. But if not, if you do not pay, it's just an orphan. Jokes, obviously. But seriously, go download it. It's really cute, and it's free for the next 24 hours on Patreon. That's linked in the chat. Taylor just got here. Hello, welcome. Just tuned in. Is this a tiny pixie that lives inside a dandelion? I love how specific. It's actually a nothing. I'm just making a shirt here during my warm-up. So it's a nothing right now. But I love that description so much. And then Sater says, I know I referenced Pirate Software a bit, but it's really because he's the only other streamer I've watched with a real amount of time. But he attributes his growth to two things, shorts and a set streaming schedule. Oh, interesting. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. Ricky has recently been doing a lot more with shorts, which is helpful because that's essentially me still. And yeah, I have enjoyed just being really consistent with the schedule. I pretty much stream noon to 3 Eastern time every day. Sater says, shorts feed the algorithm. Having a set streaming schedule allows people to know when to find you and kind of structure their schedule around it. They want to make it a good point of watching. That makes a lot of sense. Like, I remember Just Lingual was mentioning that I've kind of become part of their morning. And also, yesterday was Just Lingual's birthday, just letting you guys know. So you can wish them a belated happy birthday. Alrighty, so we have all these lovely pieces here, and now what I'm going to do is make sure they are polygrouped in a way that is sensible. The way you polygroup is very, very simple. All you have to do is grab all the pieces that you want and then hit Command W. You'll notice they all change into one color. I can still click auto groups and split them into different pieces, but just like this is quite nice because I can quickly hide and remove pieces while I'm making new shirts in the future. So it's funny, this is essentially going to be a nothing shirt. This is just as busy as it would be as a fun base mesh for me to then iterate and create from. All right, let's merge all of this down. And again, I'm going to start incorporating shoulder pieces into the bodice, I believe. I think that will make my asset library a little more robust and easier for me to shop through. And the best part is, it's only 5,000 points, and it's not even real. Meaning, when I say it's not even real, I just mean that it doesn't exist. They are single-sided polys, see? Which means I can really adjust like the thickness on this and maybe even do fabric simulation if I wanted to. All right, we will call this a leaf dryad bodysuit, and I know I'm gonna get a lot of use out of this. We're gonna throw this into our organized folder. Shirt _ leafy bodysuit. You know, the name doesn't, bodysuit, bodice, the name doesn't super matter because my asset library really functions in a visual way, but maybe I'll start putting my newer ones in their own folder. Mini Blaze says, tablet free at last. Now I can misspell on my computer. Very nice. Looks great. Thank you, thank you. Do you want to tell us about your weekend, Blaze? I know that you were busy and running around, I said, at DEF CON. So if you want to talk about that, we'd love to hear about it. All right, that's looking pretty darn good. Kind of tempted to continue with this just for a bit. I don't think y'all mind if we have a slightly longer warm up here, because I kind of want to make pants for this now. Or not pants, but like a skirt thing. I don't think I've shown you guys how I make that before. So it's kind of funny because I just grab the body here and then I do a little circle on their belly and I extract that. Once you have this piece, you can inflate it just a touch, mask the bottom, stretch it straight down. There we go. And then ZBrush with half or same turned on, depends what poly count you're going for. And there you go, a tabard has appeared. I find it easier in this case to make, let me organize this thought. Okay, when you're making assets, there are certain things that are easier, there's a direction that's easier to go one way than another. I find it's easier to lengthen things, for example, than shorten them. I also find it easier to have something that's bulkier and shrink it down. So I always make my assets on the shorter and bulkier side. That's kind of like a consistent thing that you'll see as I create these pieces. It is possible that when you do this for like your own asset libraries, to all my creatives out there, that will not be the case for you. But I found as far as my workflow goes, that tends to be pretty consistent. All right, I'm gonna create a couple more pieces to layer on here, also with different color. That's one thing nice about OBJ is that I should have captured the color. Even though poly painting doesn't take very long, it is nice to have things as automated and as quick as possible. All right, let's go ahead and create a skirt. So for a skirt, I masked just this like top, kind of like a thick belt, extract that into its own piece, and then ZBrush. Let's go ahead and inflate just a touch, mask the bottom, and stretch straight down. Perfect. All right, this is a little on the long side, so let's make it a bit shorter. And then ZBrush again. Oh, I didn't even mean to like gloss over it, but Sater, I really do appreciate you sharing the other streamer that you watch, but also like their secret business tips. Like I'm always learning, so I'm open to stuff like that. And even though Ricky and I are, that's my husband, we are successful enough to support what we do. I don't know, it's always nice to grow your business and I don't know, do better. I definitely appreciate where we're at now. I don't feel like we have to strive to be anything else, but I'm always going to work on improving. So I'm always open to it. Kind of skimming through here, it was good. Mini Blaze is talking about Adeptcon. They say it was tiring. Let's see, Africa Mur was great teaching the class. I even remember a few things, not a lot, but enough to get my feet wet. Well, very good. The hotel situation wasn't that great. I had to walk 6 blocks to the convention center, so we didn't want to pay twice for parking. Woof. But I'm glad that you guys, at least you did it. You weren't too far. 6 blocks is a bit of a haul though. Very cool. And then Mayblaze says, I stopped by several other booths though. Oh, I don't remember seeing them. I was mostly looking at storage, paints, dice, and specific rules / minis. Very cool. What are a couple of your favorite things that you saw there? I've actually never been to a con, surprisingly. I've thought about it before. I've been invited to teach at a couple of them. And after all is said and done between like the hotel and they do pay you, but like the pay is not great. And I love the cons I've been offered to go to. And I'm like, I wouldn't break even, but after like opportunity cost of like my time, I would be losing money or like breaking even though on the surface I would have gained money. So it's kind of a tricky thing. Sater says, Mia, I'm happy that you guys are happy where you are and that you're at a sustainable level. He has a whole team now talking about pirate software. Yeah. Honestly, I don't know if I would want to get to his level. Agreed. I am at a kind of a cozy, nice little spot here, and I'd like to just kind of stay there. Oh, it's a new subscriber. Yaban. Aria. Yaban. Thanks for subscribing. I appreciate having you part of the community here. Yeah, it's an interesting thing. It's like very much so a careful what you wish for. I think most people, it's an easy default to think, oh, like you want to just grow your business as large as possible. And I'm like, not really. Money's great, you know, but as far as like an interactive community, I've already become kind of attached to y'all. And I'd be very disappointed if I got so popular that like the stream is just flying by and I can't, you know, talk to you guys. I feel like what I would do is I would just make a members only stream every now and then and I would just gift you guys memberships and then I could keep you that way. Because I definitely would be disappointed if I didn't have a community like this I could talk to at least like the majority of the week. And then I could have the super busy streams. Maybe I just won't get super famous. There, that's easy. I don't think it's going to happen anyway, so I don't have to worry about that. No need to problem solve a problem that doesn't even exist yet. And probably won't exist. That's a funny edge loop we got going on there. Let's go ahead and manually add in some creases because I think that ZBrush is getting confused. Oh no, that's mostly right. I kind of want the center line to travel this way though. Let's see if I can ZRemesh with same and have it not have a meltdown. It's having a small meltdown. If you want to encourage ZRemesher to behave a bit better, you can always put on group loops. Which one doesn't add thickness? Yes. Group loops and then ZRemesh with half, and it tends to do a bit of a better job. I am being a bit difficult for it right now. It's like, what do you want? And I'm like, I want a very specific leafy-ish shape. There we go. I can put this crease here to kind of help guide it. You'll notice when I click Polish by Features, it kind of shortens up a little nicer. There we go. That's about what I was wanting. I'm not going to make it too curved and fit to her outfit because I do want this to be like unisex. Also, I like to add a tiny size gradient whenever I stack things like this. It'll look largely the same size, but it really does make a big difference. There we go. And then it doesn't do a great job of curving to her body right now, so we can go ahead and amend that by using the gizmo and going to bend arc. Just a small curve. It's gonna look pretty dramatic, and then I go ahead and cinch it up using the gizmo that way. There we go. Just a bit of a better fit. Mirror and weld. And we'll kind of shrink that shape up. Excellent. There's a lot for me to work with here, and it's gonna be really easy to make a lot of new assets from this. Yeah, no specific character in mind for this one. This is just some pieces that I know I can get a lot of use out of. And I'm slowly going through and upgrading all the pieces in my asset library. But that's gonna bring us to the end of our warm-up. So the last thing I need to do here is just button up these pieces and export them. So bear with me for just a moment here, and then we'll get started with the main Tavern Keeper's craft. Adding a second layer to her skirt really quick. Perfect. Setting these to the top of my subtool menu and merging them down, using that same little polygroup method I talked about earlier. All right, there we go. So you see they're all separate pieces, so it's really easy for me to grab and adjust. This one isn't as leafy, but we'll still call it leaf something. So I'll know they kind of belong in the same set. We'll call it pant because it goes in the pant category. Leaf pant. Again, the names aren't super important. It's mostly a visual asset library. Ooh, Ricky mentions brunch in 5 minutes. I'm so hungry. I'm so excited for that. So there might be a bit of an early break here. Hope y'all don't mind. But yeah, starving. All right. And then we will come back and then start the Tavern Keeper's Craft like normal. And that will be uninterrupted. And they'll probably go from the Tavern Keeper's Craft straight into happy hour, since I'm taking my break a little early today. Yeah, I did not eat breakfast today because I usually don't like breakfast, but then today I'm like, oh goodness, I am super hungry. All right. Minnie Vlay says, my hubby let me loose alone in the dealer's area with a credit card. I've said I need a t-shirt that says, my husband left me alone in the dealer's area with a credit card. On the back, I'm not responsible for what happened. Beautiful. Yoni says, any ideas on what I should put on my asset library? Also, how long did it take for you to build yours? It probably took me about a year or two. And as far as what you put in there, it's really up to you. Like, I make lots of tabletop characters, so my asset library consists of lots of fantasy stuff of different genres. So I have like these goggles, I have a cowboy hat, I even have an Egyptian hat, and then a bunch of hairstyles I can quickly iterate from. It's pretty much like a big closet, honestly. So the way that this really came about is it's not very intentional. What you guys just saw in today's warm-up is like the first time I've ever intentionally just like made a one-off asset. Every one of these was custom designed for a character that was requested on Patreon. And because it's all, tabletop dorks, they all kind of request stuff that fits in the same universe. It's perfect. So everything is very mix and matchable. Some more hairstyles, some more pants. Shoes, for example, are very, very universal. Boots can be from steampunk to fantasy to modern. Good question, though. All right. Potato hash is ready, and he made way too much. Great, because I'm freaking starving. All right. It is currently 12:38. I'll be back by 1 p.m. I encourage you guys to get a little snack or a nice drink in the meantime. And I'll see you guys shortly, okay? Hello, I am back. I just ate a potato like the size of my head. It was great. I am now full. Ricky is making me a second coffee, and we're ready for the Tavern Keeper's Craft. So without further ado, let's talk about that. I have some references on the left side of the screen. If you want a closer look at them, they're in Discord under the project references. If you don't see that channel, just scroll up to the top of your little Discord thing and browse channels. All right, this request is brought to us by Dr. Wildfire. They have supported me on Patreon for 30 months, which is years. They're fantastic. Every request has really been a delight from them, and they're one of those patrons that have been around for a long time. When I see their name, I literally always smile. I'm like, oh, what do they want now? Because it's going to be awesome. This is what they want this time. I would love to see your take on the embodiment of good versus evil in a single mini. Half of her is angelic, long hair, feathery wings. Half is demonic/diabolical, so leather, bat wings. It'd be neat to have the angelic aspect beautiful and ethereal, and the demonic aspect decaying and vicious. Excited to see your interpretation of this sort of thing. And they also shared a ton of awesome references. I just grabbed a couple here, but I'm going to have their references up as well and grabbing some of my favorites. You'll see that populating right here. I'll just take a screenshot of their big collage, honestly. So here is a bunch of fun ones for the good side. Kind of looks like a Lisa Frank vibe. I don't know if you guys remember Lisa Frank. And then for the demonic side. I am fighting a sneeze right now. Not going to. Excellent. And I want a close-up of one of these specifically to show you guys because it's really cool and it kind of makes you want to make this character on its own. Look at that. Let's make it really big. Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. All right, I think we're set up pretty well here. And of course, I have some questions to get us rolling as well. All right, I would love if we had a backstory forming here. I only have a couple options, but you guys are welcome to put in your own, of course. So again, she's half angel, half devil. So here are some background options I have thought of. A holy warrior who fell to temptation, a demon cursed with divinity, which I thought was a fun combo because having divinity, you wouldn't think that is a curse. Or my favorite one, which is a celestial judge who is split in two. The idea of being able to like understand both sides of the story because you are half evil, you are half good, and like that battle being represented in one celestial judge, I think is cool. I'm calling her a duality seraph because I thought angel was a little too bland. She's more powerful than that. All right. But hey, there's a poll, and I actually have a fourth option, which is comment to say your own. We can discuss that in the chat. I do a pretty good job of keeping an eye on y'all in the chat to see new ideas are coming in. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. The first stage of the Tavern Keeper's Craft is taking all these pieces from my asset library that might be useful and kind of kit bashing it together. It doesn't mean I have to use these assets, but then they're there for me quickly. Is that fresh coffee?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, honey.
Of course.
Okay, we have fresh coffee, so small sip break. Oh, awesome. Did I need a second coffee today? No, I slept fantastic and I'm well fed, but it just felt like a double coffee day. All right. So the first thing we're gonna do, as I mentioned, is grabbing these pieces. This is kind of interesting because I don't want such a literal hard split as you see in this reference. The model will have a hard split, but the clothing I think is odd if I have just like this toga just terminate randomly. Instead, I'm going to give her more of it's going to be one outfit that shreds as it passes from one that crossed that center line. So we'll try to achieve that. And then same with her hair. I don't have a great solution with that. I think I'm just going to have to be really pretty on one side and then it's going to be burnt on the other. I thought something like this would be perfect because it's windswept and I can kind of like shave half of her head and have burns. one of the big details I really enjoy that Dr. Wildfire included is that it's going to be decaying on one side. So it could be a good versus evil, but it also could be a life versus death kind of mini. Speaking of, I want to grab onto a question I saw was asked while I was gone, which is from Hindsight. And they were asking, now satirical Satyr, they were asking why tabletop minis? Why is that my business if I don't really even play that many tabletop games? And the simple answer is because that's what allows me to make characters that there's actually a demand for. But as far as like fantasy, that's like the heart and soul of it for me. I love making fantasy characters. And it happens to just be tabletop fits into that beautifully. Now, the fact that I know how to scale them appropriately, that's more niche. Finally, there's that sneeze. I've literally been holding on to that sneeze for like 2 minutes now. Okay. It's making it hard to think. Alrighty. Anyway, but that's why, you're right. The fact that it's tabletop minis is somewhat inconsequential. But the reality is, like, I've always grown up playing video games. My favorite series of all time is actually Dragon Age. And really just role-playing games like that in that fantasy escapism world has always, you know, really, really got my attention. So the fact that I can design these characters now, it just fits perfectly, especially because in tabletop games, you're making your own story and it's focused on that, well, for me, that role-play aspect. So I'm fitting this hairstyle to her simply by using the Move brush, the 3D gizmo, kind of just gently taking my time, moving it around. Don't mind that it looks like such a stuck-on wig. We're going to be adjusting as we go. As of now, one thing at a time. Again, this is kind of that early kit bashing phase. And I'll be looking at these references closely as I work through them. I might even make a new hairstyle for her. We'll see. All right, as far as a headdress goes, I am not sure if I'm going to do that because of that hard split. Though I do think it'd be interesting to do almost like a dryad-like side. I'm also a big fan of kind of like these winged ears almost right here. These feathers that come off the side for like a halo. So maybe that's something that I will experiment with. Since I mentioned that, let's go ahead and draft that shape really quickly. I'm going to use a curve brush and then a built-in taper using the curve function. Where is it? Curve modifier. We're going to flip this graph so it's negative. That means it's going to have a negative taper. And then we'll click and drag a couple spikes here. So initially they're going to look symmetrical, but I'll make sure to adjust them because I think I could very easily make one side look angelic and winged and the other side look like horns, which is going to suit this model quite well. And then Maybelline says, Mia, what if you go with angelic wings and the body slowly transitioning, or demonic wings with the body transitions? I think it depends on the pole. Bless you. Thank you. Speaking of, I need to blow my nose really quick. All right, I'm back. You know, I don't actually have bad allergies. My husband does, but for some reason I'm acting like I have allergies. Whatever. All right, continuing, seeing there's any shapes I want to grab. Again, I'd like to make this really beautiful silky like toga, and this asset, I'm so glad I kept it because it's really niche. I knew I'd want it. I very helpfully named it Shirt Swoopy 1. I misspelled swoopy. Very good job. All right, we can kind of start working with that. Obviously needs some shaping. And then same thing goes for the lower half here, which I'm gonna go with, it's kind of like this toga-like shape. I don't have any poses in mind, but I know we'll be able to come something cool together. I see you guys are discussing and sharing more reference images in our Discord. I'd love to see it. Oh, very, very cool. Yeah, Satyr just shared like that. What is that? Two-Face? Which world is that from? blinking. I can see him. I can see him talk. I can see his blonde hair in the movie. I can't remember his name. I don't know why. And then my brain keeps wanting to think of the guy from Saw. I'm like, oh, Mia. Do you guys ever feel like your brain's like just like this stagnant thing where you're trying to like remember something and your brain is like, oh, it's this. You're like, oh, good try, but it's not that. Can you give me a different one? Your brain's like, this again? I'm like, no, like iterate something new. Not a problem. All right. Looking good. She's looking just angelic right now because we're going to be kind of shredding and decaying one side. So it makes sense that we'd start beautiful. Batman Harvey Dent. Oh my God, you're making me feel crazy. Right? Why am I thinking so much of Gordon from Saw? I don't know. And then Minnie Lay says, I did see a couple 3D print booths at Adeptcon. Adept. Am I saying that right? I noticed the guy that makes buildings and terrain must have better printer or dialed his in more because his has less layer line showing. Oh, nice. Very cool. Very cool. So what are you guys up to on this Monday? Are most of y'all at work? Got people working from home, maybe some other creatives. I'm kind of curious. All right, we have a good base starting here. Let's go ahead and put that away. Very good. And then I do have an asset library for wings, so we'll start getting that colored in. And that'll be the end of our asset library kind of kit bashing phase, and then begins the free sculpting. I do want these pretty tucked into her. I'm trying to think of how much I want the wings to affect the overall silhouette in the pose. I'm thinking about it because I do like this wing a lot. It's not necessarily very bat-like, but it definitely is that shredded demonic. I love what you just shared in our Discord, Sater. That looks insane. Don't know about this one, but it's too good not to share. Agreed. God, the artistry and the color theory in that is absolutely incredible. This wing just speaks to me, so I'm going to choose this one. And I'm not going to worry about being too tucked in to start with. A lot of this model might actually end up being just the appeal of the shape. The pose might be kind of similar to what it is now, kind of this symmetrical beckoning. All right, we have each of these pieces that are brought in, and now it's time to start shaping and bringing this character to life. Reaper is working on portfolio stuff. Just lingual, school and work. Very nice. Matt says, the forward to many things. Making a stable hand, although I keep getting distracted by children asking for food. Children do be like that. They do be hungry. Minnie Blaze is recovering and unpacking from their trip. Very nice. I appreciate the update. I like knowing what you guys are up to. All right, we're gonna start dropping in some poly paint here. So I'm gonna grab my paintbrush and drag rectangle. So it's very important that you don't use pure whites. It's gonna make your life very difficult when you are coloring stuff later. You wanna work in shades of gray. I feel like I say that a lot. I don't know how it comes out that much. Moving on. All right, I'm gonna pick a warmer yellowy tone for this wing on this side. And we'll have a similar color scheme for her toga. On the right side, very similar. Since I have like these yellowy tones, undertones for the holy side, I would like this decaying side to be more in that purple. It's gonna not be a super hard contrast because I could do like a blue white versus a red gray. But I think I'd like them to be a little more harmonious and a little closer. Ooh, Just Lingual says you could have the angel wing rising and the devil side falling, a diagonal wing silhouette almost. That is such a crazy good idea. Ooh, I have to do that. That is really cool. I don't want her to look lopsided, but what I could do is I could have her left side, angelic side raising up, It's a good arm reference. And then, oh, look, I got a little bit of muscle, guys. It's happening. I've always been very under muscled, so seeing anything's cool. Anyway, that side, and then the other side being like this kind of like drooping. I'll have to really spend some time sculpting a hand that looks tortured. That was a beautiful bit of wisdom you just deposited, just lingual. All right, let's get that implemented. So to get that implemented and having a rising side, these are really old fluffy wings that I have, but this one's actually really nicely structured into primary, secondary, and tertiary feathers. See? Pretty cool. Magic of polygroups. So I'm gonna use this wing instead. I'm gonna replace this curved one that we have. It might not make a ton of sense until I actually have the pose on here, but I'm gonna keep it in mind. Yeah, this pose probably won't be done in Character Creator. I will probably do this one myself because she's going to be pretty much symmetrical. Similar to what we did with the Dragonborn. All right, so what's cool here is I can have my gizmo oriented just like this and then come in with bend arc. Kind of get that upward curve and then rotate. It's not super dramatic right now, but I'll probably make it quite dramatic. Let's see how far we can push this until it breaks. I can do that and then shorten it up just a touch. I really think this is going to be more difficult to pull off, but if I do, it's going to make the model more interesting. And this is going to suit that windblown hair thing that I was already kind of doing. So on this side, I'll have a similar bend arc, except I will curve in the opposite direction. It's actually going to end up looking a bit yin yang like if I do this correct. There's a new reference that was shared and they say it's from a game I play. The character is called Serath. I don't know how much this could help. Ooh, I like that it's armored and I really like the I didn't think about adding, sorry, I'm not saying all my thoughts out loud. This is really cool because it has elemental features to it. It's like fire and ice. That's something subtle we can incorporate that I think would look really nice. I'm going to put that on the stream. I'm not sure if you are in the stream right now. Who is that? What's that username? It just says E ... because I am streaming and it's trying to put a safe streamer mode on Discord. I don't know who that is. Oh well. Oh, E. Empress. That makes sense. There we go. Yeah, I love this, and I noticed that the whole lead right now is my favorite choice as well, which is the backstory of this character is a celestial judge that's been split into two. So even more so if this looks like a yin-yang, this good versus evil, I think it's going to turn out quite nice. Zader says, alternatively, you could do the multi-wing thing. I do love me multi-wing. 2 angel wings, 2 devil, 1 on each side, which would help avoid the 50-50 split. Oh, I hear what you're saying. You could see it as it clicked. I was like, what do you mean? 2 angel? No. I see. Let's kind of play with this. This could be like dumb cool, potentially. So I have that big curve on it still, but I think there's potential here to be like this vortex of like wing coolness behind her. Zader said it also leaned into that accurate angel thing that's popular right now. This is true. Very, very cool. Mini Blaze points out that on this reference here that the shoulder guard is really nice, and I agree with that. I think that'd be a nice thing for me to incorporate here, and having I want some sort of armored element included. All right, let's go ahead and start getting some color on this model. The lack of poly paint is making it a little unclear for me, and I really want to start developing this concept. Which, funny enough, that I lean into poly paint first, because for those of you that are kind of new to 3D printing, you can't print in color unless you're printing on FDM, which they can do multicolor, kind of like this. But this is obviously much larger than miniature. These aren't finalized wings by any means, but you guys are creating something, it's happening, and I'm just gonna be the, not the muse, because that means I am the inspiration. I don't want to say tool either. I'm cooler than that. The means of which you guys are the medium for bringing this concept to life. All right, we're kind of starting with that purpley color. And we're going to split this down the side of her body. Looking a bit bruised, like an fire damage, which I'm definitely going to lean into. And now I'll get some of that on this hair here, but I'm probably going to just remove this part of her hair entirely and replace it with a burn. All right, see? A little color goes a long way. Every time I delete that asset library with the wings, I laugh because I know I'm gonna go back to it. All right, let's go ahead and zoom in on her eyes. There was a small detail I know it's gonna be worth paying attention to. And similar to the rest of it, we're gonna split it in two. Because a nice glossy black eye, I think, is classic and needed. I think I'm gonna just remove half of the eyebrow and eyelash entirely. Oh, it's so odd. I never have these split into two different pieces for obvious reasons. All right, and for now I'm gonna just make them a darker color and see how I like that. And a bit more angled. Because Evil has impeccable bone structure. There we go. Coming together. Justling will put in a helpful word there. Facilitator. I can see that. It's a little dry. It's a little HR-y. Reminds me of a good discussion facilitator. Satyr says it would be an interesting flip to the duality to have the good side armored and the demonic side more delicate and flowy. It would, actually. Especially if it's more like an angelic paladin sort of look. A lot of good options here. Let's go ahead and bring in some shoulder elements. I also like just taking the same armor piece and then just shaping it differently on both sides. It's not even like an efficiency thing. It's more that it just really keeps things looking coherent when they were from the same base. Right now, I'm just looking at our reference here and kind of going off of that, but I'm still keeping your note in mind, Satyr. So for this side, we're going to stretch it a touch, and then also using a bend arc, I think I can get a cool shape. Maybe. I like to use the deformers rather than just the move brush when I can, because it gets a less of a lumpy look. Still kind of playing with this shape here. I want to keep it somewhat simple because I don't want to, her silhouette is already going to be quite complicated because of these really insane wings. So I need to be careful with that. But I like the idea of a little subtle piece of armor, really inspired by that reference that Empress Tiramisu provided. All right, starting to come together a bit. Just Lingual says, my soul is HRE and dry. I wrote my wife a sweet note and she asked if AI wrote it because my language is so dry. It's a thought that counts, right? All right, I need to grab something. I'll be right back. Alrighty. Sater says, I think I preferred mirror wings, angel upper, demonic lower, or just me. Yeah, the multi-wings are pretty intense, but I'm having fun with the idea, and it is actually time to start playing with the wings again, now that we have some poly paint and more of a direction here. Right now I'm thinking of how literal I want to keep the split and if I want to start blending elements on either side. I do think the restriction of having it so split down the middle is kind of a fun one to play by. So let's lean back into that and see what we'll think. I did like the curve of this, like the yin-yang-ness of it. And then the pose I end up with is going to really nicely complement it. I might actually introduce a pose sooner than later, which is extremely unusual. But because her pose is going to be so symmetrical, I can actually start doing that. So you guys don't see this happen very often, but essentially the way that I pose is just masking and transpose line. If you want things to look more comfortable and relaxed, you want the elbows to be closer to the body. The more you stick them out, the more tense things look. So just like I'm bringing her shoulders back and down a little bit. I'm also going to mask right here at her deltoid to bring that even further down. You know what? I kind of want to raise this arm. All the notes what I said were relevant, but I'm changing my plan on the fly. All right, gonna mask this point here and then rotate and bend. It's one of the models that actually could benefit from being sculpted asymmetrically, not usually the case. And then Sater has mentioned to rotate the bat wing more to get that seam line from the top of the wing. It also needs to be lowered. It needs to be lowered and also just more C-shaped in the first place. We'll come back to the wings in a little bit, but keep thinking, keep cooking on that. Minnie Blaze says, Mia, just a thought here. Something you've probably thought about. Those wings are different, weight-wise especially. Will there be a balance issue on the base? Oh, no, not at all. These things are so light, like, no. Especially with like the big bases that are on these, proportionally, will not matter at all. Also, these wings, like volumetrically, like how much space they take up and weight, are going to be almost identical. And first says, I just picked up the dog snoring. I thought it was my dog. Yeah, no, it's mine. And then Sater says, there. Probably talking about this arc I have on the wing. Can't remember if I was doing more out or more in. Out. Her elbow looks so sad. We'll need to make her a new one. I go ahead and mask from her shoulder and raise up the entire, I was gonna say assembly, but it's an arm. All right, we have a slight pose that's gonna start forming here. Again, very unusual to compare to how I normally do these things. So for this one, we're actually going to pull her shoulder back a touch. Still using the transpose line. And then I'll give her hands a nice pose. And by that, I mean I'll probably just cut them off and put on some pre-pose hands I have done. Because posing fingers will take me just as long as posing the entire model. Totally serious. I also want to give this hand like claws and stuff, so we'll see. Sater says, it just makes the composition. The eye will now flow from the wingtip to wingtip, leading from the top of the wing, traveling along the entire model and flowing into the base. It does, and I also like this because if it's so long like this and dramatic, it will not need free supports. You can touch it onto the base. I will need to make this little spike a bit more substantial. And then we're going to increase the length right here as well. Oh, this model is going to be really, really cool. Glad to have you guys part of it. All right, she's looking so stiff, which makes sense because her shoulders and her hips are exactly stacked on top of each other. Starting to merge things out. Again, I've completely like deviated from my normal workflow here, so I'm having fun, but I'm also trying to make sure that I'm not losing the flexibility that I normally have. Looking good. Let's go ahead and merge that eyeball. And then we need to sync this in. Ooh, Sater put in a new reference in the Discord, different take instead of rot and ruin, which is more on that elemental side I was thinking about of fire, which is pretty cool. This is the kind of model that makes you want to make like 6 different versions of it. But at some point I do have to just commit to an idea and do it. I'm gonna go ahead and load in my scar brush because there's some nice bases there I can start to make some burns, which is gonna also double as like rot and ruin depending how you want to paint this. I want to make her facial features a bit more severe as well. Let's go ahead and raise this up. A bit more judgy. She is a judge, I think we have decided. Long nose. Gonna give her a bit of a smaller pursed mouth. A more narrow neck. And then pulling this jawline up pretty much as far as I can go without it just being too severe. And then pushing in these cheekbones just a touch. Her face is a bit wide as well, so I'm going to narrow that. And we'll need to fix her hair. There's kind of some weirdness going on here with her hair. Part of that's going to be fixed by having some of these hair strands kind of falling naturally on her face. So I'm going to pin just a couple of those to play with. All right, it's amazing, like, if you're gonna take time to add some finicky details, hair strands is the way to go. It almost always is worth the time spent. All right, almost done with this. That's already added a lot of nice detail to her face. Also fixed her kind of goofy hairline we had going on here. Mayplay says, what about a secondary claw / protrusion that is shorter just under the big one on the demon side? Ooh, maybe on this side. So you're saying to take this, split. Let me get organized here just a moment. We're talking about this claw, right? Something kind of like that? Oh yeah, I immediately like that more. I'm pretty sure that's what you're talking about. I'll need to refine it still. This whole thing needs help though. I like that better than what I was having because it's kind of like leaning into this tapered effect. But I actually think I need to cut the entire thing off and just go for a spike. I think it's going to be a little confusing, distracting. Just going for a solid spike, I think that's going to be more clear. So even though I didn't take your suggestion, I actually ended up changing the model for the better still. So thank you. Always appreciated. Obviously, peasants, you're welcome to discuss and agree or disagree. I may or may not change it again. We'll see. Mini Blaze says, yes, pinch brush on the end. I agree. Sater says, I'd go with the burned wood scaly look that's happening on the wings to the fingers. Yeah, I agree. That will need a bit of reshaping and retexturing when we get to it. But let me continue working on her face for just a bit more. I don't want her to look like she's sneering, but we'll see. All right, I'm gonna add a little bit of volume to her face because I still want her to look very feminine. She's looking a little severe. So to do that, we're gonna add a little bit of fat back to her face, building up her cheekbones and softening a few of these features. Also, her forehead is just terribly small. So let's go ahead and push this hairline up along with these other little strands. There we go. That's better. kind of ending with a bit of a softer expression here. It's very sensitive. That's also why I love working on faces. I'm gonna arc her collarbones to be even a bit more dramatic. And I do need to just reduce the size of her lat muscles manually because they're just gigantic. So I'm gonna use my clay brush with invert and just scoop them away because I'm like, okay, too strong. I really want this like really long, narrow, exaggerated neck. Taylor says, is this Cate Blanchett? I know that's an actress, but when I read the name, literally nothing comes to my brain. Oh, that is exactly who I had in mind without intending. Thank you. Mayboy says, lunch is here. Be right back. Of course, of course. All right, I'm actually happy with the face as it is. Doesn't need much more work than that. Because though they are fun, it's not really a focal point of minis. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and merge these horn-like things into her head. So if I move her head, it's gonna move everything. This might be the first model that I'm going to pose entirely without using Transpose Master. It's quite odd. So it's tricky because I kind of want her looking away, but it's very important that you can see that split. So we've got some things to consider here and to be careful of. When you're posing, it's very important that you don't just pose from some random point, like a pivot, because her head is not going to rotate the way that it should. You need to make sure it's going to be at the point to actually rotate. So take your gizmo, hold down Option, and then you can click and drag and move it to where it should be, which is right here. Make sure it's still like in the center of the mesh too, because if it's out in the front, you will still get odd problems. It really needs to be at that central pivot point. There you are. Looks like there's an eyebrow that fell off. No, it's an eyelash. Let's go ahead and merge that down. I hate when I just have an eyebrow fall off. All right, let's do that again. Going for a subtle pose here. This has been kind of fun because you're going to see this model look softer and more organic and natural looking because she's going to get posed as I'm designing the character, which really does not happen often. All right, I'm going to lengthen her fingers just a bit. And the best way to do that is to actually just grab her fingernail. So I'm going to go ahead and move topological and click and drag. I don't want them to look like claws. I just like long fingernails. Though I will probably screw up her other hand and make that look clawed. I said screw up, but I mean like make it look more demonic, like it's definitely intentional. Her elbow looks very broken, so we'll take Trim Dynamic and we'll find those planes again. Flatten, flatten, flatten. And that already looks a lot better. That gets softened. There's a point right here. That curve doesn't exist. Flatten, flatten, flatten. You'll notice I don't use my smooth brush as much as I do my Trim Dynamic to find those planes again. I highly recommend that you do the same. All right, and I do think it'd be cool if it's a bit higher on one side. I don't want to make her boobs look weird, but I do want this to kind of slope. And then we will have weathering effects on one side still. Let's go ahead and mirror this. Let's keep this all one color. I might even just hide the bottom half of her body because I don't think we're gonna end up seeing it actually. Just gonna keep it toga. I like this. If I kind of tilt that, looks like she's walking this way. There's a knee bump in there somewhere, right here. That is her knee. So there's a bone right here. Though I do want to change this a touch. I do want more of a flare. So there's a couple ways to do that. I can just go ahead and mask the bottom here, place my gizmo, and increase the size. Also gonna give this model a little bit more height, which is perfect because she's going to be larger than life. Really dramatic. Perfect. I know, I'm putting Ricky out of work. Normally Ricky poses my models. All right, we're just starting to creep up to the halfway mark of the Tavern Keeper's Craft, and we've made really, really wonderful progress. I'm quite happy with this. We might finish this whole model on stream. All right, I have this really cool monster hand brush that I think I'm gonna cut her current hand off and replace it with this. Yeah, monster hands. This used to be on Bad King, which is no more, unfortunately. But there were a bunch of fun monster hand packs that they included there. Yes, this is kind of one I was thinking of. There's a lot of really cool stuff going on here, and it's so gnarly and gross. So usually I'm more picky about making sure the model is, you know, contrapposto. So you really have like the shoulders are off center or off balance with the hips. And that's happening a little bit here, but I didn't push it as far as I normally would because I kind of like the stiffness and the regality. So keep that in mind. Not all rules are just be kind of like blanket followed. Oh, perfect. This is exactly what I want. All right, I'm gonna cut that hand off and throw this new hand on. I don't mind if it's a bit on the exaggerated, large, and monstrous side. Though a good like rule of thumb is that your hand is like the size of your face. So at any point I will take my hands like on my model and I will scooch them over to their face to see if they're roughly the same size. And that is. So if you're seeing me do that, that's why. Especially when it comes to minis, I don't mind the hands being a little on the big side because it makes them a little less fragile. And then we'll need to move this weathering effect up her arm. I got a lot of tools that can help me accomplish that. It's mostly going to be just a standard brush. Another reminder too is that thumbs go on the inside, like towards your body. I've definitely seen my students every now and then where they have a hand on the wrong side. All right, grab my Move Topological brush, and I think moving just a couple feathers is gonna give this a much more organic feel. Because as of now, it's a little samey, and that's how I made this base mesh because I wanted it to be uniform, so then I could go through and fine tune. There we go. Really want to exaggerate the leading feathers right here, as you would see that in an actual bird wing. Though it does depend on the bird wing. There's a lot of different kinds out there. I think this wing is getting a little bit too small. Let's make it a bit larger. Excellent. Got a really cool thing going on here. This arm is a little weirdly pushed back. Let's go ahead and move it where it should be. Just making small adjustments, small improvements as I continue to cycle throughout the model. I do like that the dress is kind of simple, similar to this reference I have here, not taking up too much attention. Reaper. Taylor says, reminds me of the Columbia Picture Studios lady. Oh my god, it totally does. Maybe you can incorporate similar motifs as Lady Liberty or the goddess Thesis. Those are both fantastic. Oh, those are some really good ideas. So I'm going to pull that up for y'all that don't remember off the top of your head. Lady Liberty from... There we go. Definitely giving these vibes, for sure. Just in case you guys weren't sure what the reference was there. And then Sater says, no shade, admission. I've never really understood why people have such a hard time with hands. Yes, they're complex, but they're also the easiest things to have a real life reference. That's pretty unfair, I think, because there's lots of things you can just look at. Like faces are difficult, right? And you got plenty of real life references for those. It's exactly what you said. Not only are they complex, but we see them all the time. So it's much easier to identify when things are wrong with them. We kind of have this built-in mental library of what hands look like. So I get your point, but also no at the same time. Because they are complex. But you're right. It's one of the easiest things to practice in the sense of like, well, just do like a hand sketch every day for like 10 minutes every day. You'll make huge progress, and make sure to just reference it based on what you got right here. I mean, you guys see me do that all the time in the camera. Like when my eyes are looking up, and it's like obviously here you guys are here, my eyes are looking here because that's where I can actually see myself, and I'm always looking at that, make sure the framing looks good, and then I'm constantly doing stuff like this for pose references. Sater says, draw what you see, not what you think you see. Oh my goodness, that is easier said than done. Very, very good advice though. I think this model is really coming along beautifully, and I don't want to overthink it. I'm saying this to myself more than anything. When models come together quickly like this, it's important to just let them happen. It's like the temptation in my head is like, oh, I've saved all this time and effort because it came together so quickly. So instead I should reinvest that time and effort to make it even better. Doesn't always work like that. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes it's nice to just let a simple concept or a simple model that came together sing and not overcomplicate it. Otherwise you might end up muddying it. And yeah, Taylor repeating to hindsight, that is incredible advice. And Sater says, oh, I know. I'm going to repeat the advice anyway. God, Sater, you and I both need to work on some slice of humble pie for both of us. And that quote is, draw what you see, not what you think you see. It's a good one. I need to put her leg away. There we go. And then by the time we're done with this dress here, we'll have a lot more wear and tear. All right, let's check on the body for a second here and then delete what's hidden because we do not need the legs or that hand. It's saying that there is no hidden spot. Don't be silly. There we go. There we are. Gonna add one more subdivision level and then come in with this cuts and scars brush, and maybe we can start playing with some really fun texture here. We'll need to subdivide it a few times to get the look we're going for. And I do want this half of the body to be on the busier side. I usually avoid that, but in this case, it's gonna benefit us. I'm gonna go ahead and just straight up run a mask down the center. And then I'll smooth this. There we go. So I'm lowering the mask by holding down Control and clicking on the mask side. It's easiest if you go to your low subdivision level to do this. That'll give you a nice smooth blend very quickly. Now that we have this, I'll enable back face mask and we can really start throwing on some gnarly textures. And because we have that mask, I shouldn't have to worry too much about it bleeding onto the good side. When it comes to their face, I really want a strong, recognizable scar. Something that even creeps down all the way to her mouth would be cool. Mini Blaze, dare I say, she will need a necklace. You may dare. Satyr, ladies and gentlemen, Blaze is back. We missed you. Blaze kind of has like these like catchphrases, I guess, of things they always recommend or comment on. To be fair, she's right. It does make the model better. Oh, I think having a scar that kind of stretches up the side of her head like this could be really cool. It's a little too dented. There we go. Here we go. I'll need to come through with my damn standard brush to really dig in these shapes to make sure that they fit. I'm kind of creating this spider webbing like effect here. Excellent. And now I'll come through with damn standard, making sure I have enough resolution and really carve in these shapes, because I need a paintbrush to catch this and do the work for me, because I'm not good at free painting. This is kind of what I'm always talking about. Like, buy pre-made brushes, they're awesome, they're fun, but if you have no idea how to sculpt that texture, you're not going to be able to get its full potential or even close. So I'm kind of coming in with like almost like a scribbling like effect with my damn standard brush, keeping it really light. And to be clear, keeping my hand light, but the brush is actually quite strong. I'm really digging these creases in. Because if this doesn't show up on a painted model, the model's not going to read nearly as clearly, right? Speaking of, I want to build up this edge on her lip just a touch better. There we go. And then as we run down her arm, I'm going to make it look a little more rotted, but I didn't want her face just to look like disgusting. I want it to look more cracked and shattered. And then we can start adding textures like that to her head, and I can kind of poke those horns out of it. So it's a layering process. I don't know if I want to add boils. That's a little too much, I think. Now let's pay a little closer attention next to the seam by her hands. To do that, we're going to merge them down, and then I can use my clay brush to kind of patch in these seams. A lot of this cleanup is actually going to happen when I post-process for 3D printing, but we can definitely do a better job right here. If the clay brush wants to throw a fit, you can always use inverted trim dynamic as well. But usually the clay brush does a really good job. And especially here, I don't mind if the seam is a little lumpy, because we're kind of dealing with these rotted textures here. Perfect. So this vein right here is awesome. Let's go ahead and continue that up using the standard brush. I need to make it a bit smaller and a bit more intense. There we go. How nice is that? And it's pretty much seamless from that mesh I imported, which is exactly what I like to see. It's getting a little blobbier right here because we're losing a little bit of resolution, but that's okay. And then let's add some of those textures back in here to get a nice seamless blend. Excellent. Guys, she's looking so cool. Oh, I do need to save. Also, very well said, Sater. Blaze is pretty pulling. I agree. Oh, and Sater's the one that reminded Blaze to remind me to save. Wow, we're full, love it. So I'm calling this a duality serif. Makes sense to me. If you guys have a better idea, let me know. Now we're going to spend a little bit of time on the base. I need to pick a more neutral color because now the base is going to look like evil or good. We're going to do that classic split on the base as well. I'm thinking clouds on one side and then a rough texture. It's kind of craggy on the other. Come in with my standard brush, kind of scribble this in. Perfect. And then to get that kind of cloud effect, I'll come in with my inflate brush. Literally gonna like click and scribble in spots, and that will start to form these little clouds. And then I can make them look a little more ethereal by using the spiral brush. Everybody likes a good spiral brush moment. There we go. And on the other side, we'll come in with rocks. And instead of sculpting them by hand, we have a brush for that, because we always have a brush for that. Which one do I want? Let's go with lava crust and see what that looks like. There's actually a lot of parts of this I haven't used yet. Making sure to turn on backface mask and adding some resolution. Oh, that does look quite nice. It's a bit strong though, so we'll reduce the intensity. And then scoot this whole thing up and make it a little smaller. Beautiful. But not losing resolution. Here we go. It does look lava-y. Cool. I like it. All right, we'll come in with a really heavy dark color on top, and then we'll come through with this lighter one, also with backface mask. So it kind of will add this natural ambient occlusion effect. I need to bring it up in a few spots because we're kind of losing the flatness. There we go. All right, that base is coming together. Sater says very, very eloquently, rocks equals boo, flames equal yay. I mean, we can do both. We can do flaming rocks. See, even the bot votes for flames. That is funny, right, if you say that. Oh, and then Taylor says, thanks for putting my name so I can see it. For people that are hanging out, if you put at M3DM, it puts it in this really bright orange on my side. It makes my life much easier. Taylor says, what if you gave her a halo on one side, which fades into a crown of knives on the other side? Pff, that's really cool. It's going to look very crown-like regardless because we can't have a floating element that's 3D printed. And it might end up looking maybe even too plain on the angelic side. But I'll be damned if I don't even try it. Gotta try it. Because it's a really, really lovely idea. As usual, you're pretty creative. I want it to just float. I think that would be the best. I mean, I can kind of game it to where her hair sits up. I'm trying to get it to look like it's floating, but we all know it's not floating. It's gonna have to like sit on her head. I mean, that means it's just gonna look more like headband-like, which I don't think is really the effect you're wanting. But I could do something ornate and nice. The concept is beautiful. We're just a little limited by 3D printing right now. That's what I want. I want something that's truly floating. Mini Play says, what about a crack side looking like lava coming through, sort of like ground hell? And then why not stick it to her horns? I thought about it, but I think it's gonna, I don't think it's gonna work as well as, yeah, I think it's gonna work, but maybe I'm wrong. So I'm gonna make these a little bit larger and closer together, so that way this crown can actually feasibly stick to them. And then lower it. Yeah, if I just set it on the back, so it connects on the back side here, that could work. It's a bit large. See, it's so big. Like that's my issue here. It's like the temptation just to stick it onto something, but then you gotta move all these other pieces so that it touches it, and it starts looking a bit goofy. Use locks of her hair to make it look like it's floating. But what really makes it read as it's floating is the fact that there is a gap between the halo and her head. All right, we're not doing this concept. I tried messing with it. It's not working. But it's such a cool, it is a really nice idea. So I still appreciate you bringing it up. There we go. This really just needs to be farther to the sides to make it look good. Well, I like what Seder put in the Discord. It's much more grim dark because it's going to cover her face, but it is neat. All right, doing a little bit more adjustments on her toga here. A bit of a wider neck. And then we'll probably start adjusting these fabric folds sooner than later to actually suit this model the best that it can. Gosh, my dog is snoring really loud. If that's like really getting through some of you guys' headphones, let me know and I can move him or gently wake him. It's so loud. Alrighty, so now I'm going to start thinking about texturing her clothes so they look even more different. I also would like the idea of maybe adding kind of like a hip piece. You'll see. Kind of like some worn fabric on one side is going to layer up, because to me, I like how simple and smooth the soft side is, you know, the angelic side, but the mnemonic side I think would look really nice by having some like layered torn fabric. Of course, in addition to the weathering that I'll be adding myself. Speaking, I'm going to start adding some of that wear and tear. It's going to be on the simpler side, but I want to be really thoughtful with it. There we go. And I would like if a little bit of our skin were to show through it too. There we are. All right. It's really coming together. That's pretty cool, if I do say so. All right, and then Taylor says they sent a reference in the Discord. I don't see it. Oh, I see. That's really cool what Matt put in. Like a vertical style halo, kind of like Warhammer. That's cool. Did you put it in general? You did. I do love that. Oh, the ring, that's really cool. I'm going to at you because you're posting in the wrong place. Bam. Very cool though. Yeah, gotta love a good eyeless crown mask. Agreed. All right, so you guys are thinking about this vertical one, and that's pretty darn cool. I do think if we can pull this off, it is going to make the model like epic. I did not think about the vertical crown. Thank you. All right. I say we just get rid of these little horn things she has entirely. I mean, they're fine, but this is going to be so much cooler, and I don't want them fighting for attention. I just want one to be really good. All right, how big and where exactly does this fit? Because I know it's going to be epic when it works. And then we can do like those pointy spires on one side, but make the whole thing more on the golden side. And then angry spikes. Not quite ZBrush. So you remesh that. Very cool. It kind of fits lower in that other reference. Interesting, interesting. I like it. You can put it at a subtle angle leaning forward. I agree. Kind of behind the ear. And leaning forward a touch. I think that is going to help a lot. Yes, it did. And then let's zero mesh these spikes to be a little more intense. And not curved at all. Nice and straight. Now I might kind of just do a bunch of these spikes and just see what we're thinking. We're in that big draft shape concept stage. Let's go ahead and paint the side of this black to help us out. But I'm gonna keep that inner ring pale, just so it makes maximum sense. How's that? I think that's nice. I think it needs to be like even more narrow. Yeah. Circle head. All right, got one spike here. Probably would be best if it looks almost kind of like a sun. Kind of like a radial thing going on. Gonna have to adjust each one of these spikes manually. To that I say boo. But if I just take a second to be good with my gizmo, it won't be that bad. There we go. These are probably too long, but I mean, they're fun. Go big or go home. Okay, these are way too big. I think they're very fun though. All right, what are we thinking so far? I'm starting to kind of like build up this spiky, cool thing. Kind of neat. kind of does. I like that. Oh, that's pretty cool. I knew you guys were gonna make something awesome. This wing needs to be bigger. Losing a little bit of our balance visually here. So every now and then you guys will notice I'll sculpt while looking up. I don't even look at the screen anymore. I look at my other monitor and sculpt because it's farther away from me. I could just zoom out, but that would be too simple. And technically a worse viewing experience for you guys, so. Just want to let you guys know, because it can be confusing. I'm like, where is she looking? Everywhere. No. It's pretty freaking cool. Definitely another one of those models where I am 100% certain the requester is going to be thrilled with it, which makes me very happy. Sick. Taylor says, I love it. Me too. Thank you. Thank you very much for like sticking with that. Because every now and then you guys put ideas in, I work with that, I'm like, it's not working. And I'll throw it away, but like, I don't mean no. I just mean I didn't figure it out. So giving more input's so helpful. Sater says, like it. I feel like the light side needs a little something. I agree. I think something that I can do is I can just take this side, mirror it, and make them, no, 1 second. ZBrush is like really trying. There we go. And just make them like small, you know, but the same kind of thing. I really just want this but small, ZBrush. Can you do that without me having to manually do every single one? ZBrush says no. Why would you think that? Fine. I'll do it myself. Yum. I just want like little nubs. I swear it's gonna look good too. Just trying to put as little effort as possible to get this cool result. Anyway, something kind of like that is kind of like what I'm thinking. To where there's still something going on the other side, but it's not so spiked. It has a nice rounded top to it. I can't believe ZBrush didn't do this ultra specific thing for me automatically. Ridiculous. And then we need one more spiky spike in the middle. Spiky spike. Does that mean darkness is winning? Up to you. Open for interpretation. But yeah, something kind of like that is what I was thinking. All right, Sater mentions, I like it. I feel like the light side does need a little more detail because the dark is getting so much. I agree. Maybe like an arm bracer, jewels, drapery, maybe some belts. What if the light sides were on the inside? That'd be kind of cool. And it's very, very flipped yin yang. How can I do that easily? Like that? Let me know what you guys think. That's kind of cool. Taylor says, I think a lace like ornamental structure on the light side. Taylor, I'm so glad you're here today. Like, Sater always has my back, so does Mini Blaze as far as like ideas, but I feel like today's model needed some Taylor in it. This is good. Oh, like connecting to the head ring. Oh. Like here? Like, or like this, like on the inside going out. Kind of like this. Let me know what we're thinking about this head thing. I liked it better, I think, just on the underside. Like, I like this, and I don't mind this either. This and this. But I don't like it touching her head. Let me zoom in. Yeah. Some cool stuff happening here, though. And as far as, like, lacy details, I can work on that. I'm thinking something that'd be nice would just be, like, flowy ribbons. Not like that. That's a tentacle. All right, this is still wrong. Picker once Z will stop it from doing this weird body stuck thing. My only problem with if I do these little ribbons, though cool, it is going to get kind of silhouette confusing, isn't it? We can be the judge of that. We'll see. You guys know I love me a good flowy belt ribbon moment. So they're not detailed at all. But what are we thinking about this little flowy something? And then I could even like load in a gem. Or I don't want to do flowers. It feels almost too organic, weirdly. But I do feel like a nice little gem could be cool. Maybe like a nice bright blue. What is that? Quartz or topaz? There's a blue gem. I just don't know what it is. Why are you not becoming blue? What? RGB intensity 100, paintbrush, fill. Why do you mock my authority? Ah, figured it out. Yeah, a little something like that. Kinda. We're figuring it out. We're doing stuff. And then this, we mentioned like a lacy ornamental detail of some sort. I think like just like a little bracer could be cool. So I can go ahead and mask that. Always at my favorite 0 thickness. I'm gonna need to decimate this first, interestingly, because I'm working from such a high res mesh because I posed so early on. Inflate this a touch. And I will check on the chat in just a minute. I know I'm kind of abandoning y'all. I gotta get some stuff thrown down and then we can see what we're thinking. All good stuff though. Put this on the yellowier side so that way it actually contrasts with that wing and we can see it. But yeah, something like that I think could be like a really nice, clean, simple detail, and then it could have some jewels on that. I'm also a big fan of like little bracers right here. It always feels kind of like Valkyrie-esque. So I'm gonna do one of those too, and I'll get your guys' input on both of them. There we go. ZBrush. Do a good job, ZBrush. Stop being annoying. There you go. Got to get this low poly first, that way it's workable in case you guys have any further ideas to develop it. Okay. I'm done ignoring you guys. Time to check in, see what we're thinking. Oh, Taka's here. Hi, welcome back. Let me scroll up. Taka says, what about a claw or something like that on the dark side wing on top? Right here. That is so funny because we talked about that earlier and I actually ended up getting rid of it because I thought it was... How about like that? Before, after. That's more similar to what we had in the beginning, but cleaner. I'll throw it on there. Sader says, zircon and blue topaz is probably what you're thinking of. Yes. There's also sapphire, but I think I know you enough. I know you know enough, probably one of the others. Yeah. Oh, aquamarine. Give her something to hold, like a torch or a book or a weighing scale. Oh, that's a really good idea. I thought of scales earlier, maybe one pan each hand, but that would require more hand posing. It would, and it's also a little literal. She's not actually supposed to be a judge. That's just kind of like my like headcanon. It really just like half devil, half demon. I like it though. I think adding a few of these more assets and then the belt, I'm pretty happy with. What are you guys thinking about the belt? And then Sader likes the bangle, bicep bangle, and then feeling meh on the bracer at this point. You know what's funny? Because I feel the exact opposite. I'm feeling meh on this and yay on this. How about I just develop both of them in a nice, simple way, and then we'll see what we think. It's probably not going to change a whole lot, but sometimes just having a little something will make us like it. All right, insert single edge loop. That is the opposite of what I want. No, ZBrush. There you go. a really small, little simple thing, and then we'll do the same over here. I think this one would look better if they were vertical extrusions. Wow, my dog sounds like he's dying. It's a good death rattle over here. Good sleep. All right, we are upside down. I like both. I think we need to have both. Yeah, what do you think? A little something. Oh, more of a sash maybe. That's a cool idea. Let me grab this torso and then throw a loop around it. Come on, ZBrush. I know you know what I'm asking for. Haha, perfect. All right, so this is more of like a sash. Don't want to look too beauty pageant-y. What are we thinking about maybe a sash idea? My only problem with this is it does kind of cross over dark to light. I mean, I could definitely detail it so that it flows better. Maybe go down more, probably on the thinner side. This is really fun, by the way. I think you guys are kind of sharing your ideas with me. I love like iterating, kind of just playing with like, what do we want to do here? So I can get rid of that and instead maybe have a couple sashes instead. What are we thinking? I'm liking the sashes and I got rid of the belts. You know, it can't be both. Blech on sash. Matt says if you flipped it, you could turn it to rags on the dark side. That's true. Just like, whoop. I did just one of them. Merge down. Whoop. Like that. I feel like that reads way better. So if we are going to do the sash, I think Seder might like it more with this direction. He might still meh, but that definitely makes more sense. But that just make the dark side more detailed again though. And then Seder says, what instead of the terminating ribbons, instead of those are like sash-like shapes. Okay, let's do that. We're gonna hide this. Go here. Forgetting how to use ZBrush. Oh, I remembered. All right, mirror, and I'm just gonna move these right here. Oh, that's cool. Ooh, we might have a winner on that one. Belt sash. And then how many we do is up to us. I think belt sash is where it's gonna be at. Oh yeah. Even if you guys don't like that, I might override because I think it's cool. Yeah, Seder, bingo. Taylor says, I think if you have sashes, it has to be like how you have it now. Otherwise, it looks like she's about to be in a beauty pageant show. I agree. It was still giving kind of toga-y vibe, so that was fine. I think this is one of the first times that it's taken like 3 or 4 different people combining their ideas and we ended up here. It's pretty cool. All right, so we're not doing this because it's beauty pageant. I agree. However, I'm a little torn on why are you getting rid of everything? Stop being annoying. Cool. I'm a little torn between like the sashes or the terminating ribbons. So again, we got ribbons or we got full loop. I do like both quite a lot. I do think this plays better with the silhouette, and I'll need to move them up a touch here. That one doesn't look as good. You'll need a little bit of finagling. I just want to remind you guys of the different ideas. Wow, you're fitting really weird. Let's be cool. All right, a way to make my life a lot easier instead of doing this manually is I can come in here, use my Z modeler brush, and then crease these edges. Let's see how well the crease brush does. Oh, wow. Did a really good job. Sweet. And so now those edges are creased. If I do polish by features, it will start to de-lumpify on its own. So I'll just click polish by features like a lot. There we go. And then from here, this is a much faster workflow to then adjust. I'm thinking meh on the stone. Like it was a fun thing I threw on there, but now I don't want it. Same with the fabric. This one like extra fabric swash is cool, but there needs to be just one. And I need to add some thickness to this before I forget. There we go. And then some good old wear and tear. Let's throw in some fabric folds. There we go. Very nice. Thank you guys for helping me design this. This is definitely one more input from y'all. Sater says, I pull them more center and then bring one or two like you had it, but yeah, that's what I was looking for. Okay, let's repeat that in my head. Bring it more center, like, oh, yes, that looks really nice. Thank you. And then the other thing you said was another one or two, and they're thinking probably like right here. So let's go ahead and duplicate this, rotate, and I think what I can do is a mirror and weld, and let's see what it does. Ooh, that's kind of cool. That's not intentional, but I can make it intentional. What do you guys think about that? Like a actual nice little belt. Ooh, it's looking a bit more on the armory side too. Armory sounds like a real word because it is. I'm really excited for you guys to see this in about 20 seconds in real time. And then we can talk about it because I like it a lot. I think it's really cool. And that allows me to kind of tuck these belts into. Taylor says, maybe the light side of the halo could have pearls instead of spires, or 2 to 4 pearls along the spires. That's fantastic. I am unprimitive. I love the pearl idea because that's just a sphere. That makes it really easy. All right, so what we're gonna do is hide these, and I think the pearl idea is gonna be pretty excellent. Obviously they need to be white. I don't mind that being a pure white. I can break the rules sometimes. Or what if they were spires made of pearls? All right, these might be a little bit too big, but I'm just throwing them on here to get a concept. I do like that. I like that better than the little nubs that I had. And Sater says, yes, I like that idea a lot more to Taylor. I'm glad she was able to figure out your halo idea. More like y'all proposed and figured it out for me, but yeah, I'll take the credit. I technically did do it. All right, so I do like the little pearl idea. That's my favorite, new favorite as of right now, even more than these little nubs. But I'm wondering if we want to develop this even a bit further and maybe make these into spires. I'm not sure. Kind of like that, you know, but not stupid. I think I'd have to do each one manually and make them a little bit smaller as they went. Kind of like that. Okay, I think that's really cool, but I have something in my head and I don't want to ruin it for you guys, but I have to say it. They look like little snowmen. I don't know if I'm going to be able to unsee little snowman on her head. I mean, I still like it. It's kind of funny. I'm also obsessed with this accidental happy accident for the belt. I think it's quite nice. So I'm gonna go ahead and finalize this concept because I'm keeping it. Absolutely love that. Just extruding some edges on here so it looks a little bit more intentional, because I totally designed that on purpose. There you go. This model is darn near done, which is right on time because we are at the end of our Tavern Keeper's craft. Our little mug has almost slid all the way to Happy Hour. Satyr, do you want to build a snowman? And then, damn it, she beat me to the punchline. I sure did. I was already thinking it. But yeah, do we want little snowman on our head, or do we want just like, just the dots? Probably just the dots. I also made the snowman way too small. Taylor says, could he have them, or Reaper says, both Taylors being here is very confusing. Reaper says, could have them end in arrowhead spikes instead of balls, similar and less pronounced compared to the other side. This is true. Satyr says, if you are set on the spire element, don't want the ball look, well then make it a spiral, unicorn horn style. Okay, we've got some cool ideas floating around here. Little snowman. We will not do little snowman on her head. I think the pearls need to be larger and golden. Funny you say that. I was just making them bigger. Kind of on the same page. And then yeah, let's do a more saturated. Oh, that looks way better. Yep. Kind of went a little bland on the gold here, so let's kind of saturate and brighten. But yes, I also need to move this one. Boop, just a touch. All of this needs a little bit of fine tuning, but we're really coming together. Wow, all right, this is pretty fucking cool. Really happy with this. And then let's go ahead and insert some edge loops here. And then it's gonna be really easy for me to make this look like fabric. So kind of a quick trick, you just put in a bunch of edge loops side by side. And then just extrude every other poly loop. And then when you subdivide, it will look kind of like ruched fabric. You might have to be a little exaggerated with the poly loops and play with it a little bit, but I find it gives me a pretty nice result usually. Yeah, pretty nice. It's not lost on me that the inside is completely detailless. I will fix that. And then I'll check on y'all in the chat in just a moment. There we go. It doesn't need to be crazy detailed on the inside, just a little something. There we are. Wow, she's beautiful. Satyr, did she just drop an F-bomb? Feigned aghast. I do every now and then. I do kind of swear like a sailor in my day-to-day life, but I'm working on it. Mini Blaze says, you could always do a shade of a point of the pearl as if they were growing out of the pearl and then shrinking back down into it. I could. For something that small, eyeball size, I might not, but it's still a really cool idea. This is so awesome. And I've incorporated a lot of your guys' ideas into, which makes me really happy. So thanks for being part of the process. I know you guys have lives and jobs and whatnot. So the fact that you're not just hanging out with me, but also like actively designing, it's not lost on me. I'm very appreciative. I think it's super fun. Obviously, I can always design this stuff by myself, but it always comes out cooler when we work together. God, She's so cool. All right, I'm gonna play with the lighting just a little bit here. Because it makes sense to me that she'd be warm lit from the angelic side. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. There we go. That's nicer. Too much. There we go. Beautiful. All right, let's see. Sater says, Mia, print question about the sash loops. To get the curves and the lines like that, genius idea by the way, should the ones you pop out be the opposite of each other on each side for tensile strength? I mean, you could if you want to be super specific to it, but you do not need to. That's a short answer. I was trying to make it more interesting and longer, but the answer is no, you don't need to. Also, tensile strength has to deal with like pulling on something. And these are just going to be existing as stationary objects. They might get picked up, but other than that, now we're good. Then Sater says, I don't swear like a sailor. I speak like a line cook. I haven't heard that one before. That's good. And then Reaper, life? What life? Sorry, I would offend y'all for giving you more credit than you deserve. I love my peasants. So if you guys are just tuning in or if you've been lurking or hanging out, 1, you're awesome. Thanks for being here. I love my job and I love having you guys part of it. 2, we seriously took this base mesh here and transformed it into this in an hour and a half. Like, come on. That's fantastic. Pretty proud of that. Pretty darn proud of that. I can tell the Taverb is full of peasant regulars, but if you're a lurker, join our Discord, or at least subscribe, come back, because this kind of magic happens every day. Sater says, it's a Sater original, and I knew tensile strength wasn't the right term, but it wasn't coming to mind. That's true. Sorry I nailed you on that. Like, that's like the one or the few things I remember from my engineering education. Minivlay says, what fun is that we have such a diverse group. But when we mentioned 3D printing things, some people might scratch their hair, but yeah, the 3D printing can make it a little more of a wrinkle. But for the most part, I think even a lot of you guys in the chat overthink the 3D printing thing. It'll print. And I say that because I used to construct things terribly because I was new, right? And I cannot believe some of the old stuff that I made that actually printed no problem. So that's where a lot of the confidence comes from. I'm like, oh, I've done way dumber things and they succeeded, so. Minivlay says, applause for everyone, including Mia and Ricky, who kept Mia fed. Seriously, amen to that. Oh my goodness. Ricky is my husband. If anyone is new here and watching, my name is Mia and M3DM is for Mia's 3D models, but we're actually a husband and wife duo. And that's kind of the gist of it. We make 3D printable models for a living. It's all tabletop focus, and they're requests from Patreon. So pretty nifty. Speaking of, if you guys are a legendary patron, today is the last day to submit a request. And then technically, if you became a legendary patron today, you could submit a request today and tomorrow and get 2 requests worth for 1 payment. You'd have to stick around until I finish them, but still, worth noting. Almost done with my second coffee, too. Sater says, I printed like 3 things successfully. Only 3? Oh no. Of your own models and designs or just in general? Because if so, I need to put you in like 3D printing boot camp. Ricky and I will get you into shape. We'll get you printing whatever you want. Speaking of, if you guys, most of y'all are already in the Discord, Recently, Ricky printed some brackets for some shelves, and those are up on the wall over there. I don't know if it's gonna show. I'm not gonna try the camera thing again. That was a disaster the last time I tried it. Zader says, nope, just in general. What do you have? What printer do you have that's torturing you and performing so terribly? Like, we can get that fixed up for you. Mini Blaze, get a bamboo. Yeah, I agree with that. Obviously, when funds are permitting, there is that thing called life and real currency and whatnot, I suppose. All right, I'm gonna make these hands a bit bulkier here. Bam, that's the before, it's the after. They're now like double as thick and it still has the same appeal. That's the kind of adjustments I like to do. Beautiful. And then another little trick I can do here is I can just take these belts and just boop, angle them, and it's just gonna kind of encourage that asymmetrical balance here. A little bit of a hip sway. Everybody likes a good hip sway moment. Beautiful. And then I should save this because that is important. Come on, save. There we are. Yeah, I never closed the poll. I'm just letting it kind of stay open. But we are at the end of Tavern Keeper's Craft, so that is the time. The winning vote was a demon cursed with divinity, which, honestly, it can look like that too. Zader has an Ender 3 and a resin printer that isn't set up. I think it's an Anycubic Mono X. That's actually a pretty good printer. Yeah. Doesn't matter since it's not up and running though. You should get it up and running. Just put in like, I don't know, 5 minutes of effort a day. And then eventually it'll be set up. All right, so somehow we're at 2 hours and 40 minutes. Oh, I extended the warm up a bit. We're gonna move on into happy hour, which means I'm gonna work on something new. I think I'm gonna continue on these assets from earlier, because that was kind of a fun little thing we're working on. And I really ought to make some new shoes at some point too. Zader says, I think it's more of a matter of where to put it for the resin printer. Yeah, so in my different configurations, because I've lived in a lot of places, I pretty much move every year. I think the longest I've stayed somewhere since I was 18 is 2 years. And now I'm 28. Hopefully next year, I'm going to buy a house. And then that will stop the moving every year and a half. But anyway, I've had a resin printer in the garage, in a bedroom closet. That one wasn't great. The bathroom closet was, underneath the sink in the bathroom, that one was pretty darn good. And the laundry room. Laundry room, garage, and bathroom were all viable options. Garage is best until it gets too cold. Laundry room was a close second because it had a really good vent and a window in there. And then bathroom was fine. Mini Blaze says, wow, you finished that with a long warm-up. That was fast. Yes, that was crazy fast. All right, let's go ahead and get back to work on making some assets. I can't remember if I was supposed to save that. Oh, I did. I actually saved the finished resulting asset from that, so good job, me. But now I'll actually open that up and keep that going. Speaking of, I'm actually going to delete all my quick save files. It is time to do a purge. It's becoming a bit of a mess. But I am going to open my Duality one again because now I'm paranoid of losing it. See, I feel naked without my quick saves. I also do not need the Plasmoid Warlock anymore. That's complete, and so is the Zombie Office Worker. All right, that is in fact saved. Okay, good. Had to get my eyes on it one more time. All right, I'm gonna grab this piece here, and then maybe do some more asset creation. To make it less creepy, I'm going to turn off the poly paint on the body. Just makes it less eerie, I feel like. Or more eerie, I don't know. I don't need the male base mesh. There we are. I might call it Elf series. Beautiful. Just Lingual says model looks great. Thank you, thank you. Speaking of, I didn't take a screenshot of that. I always like to have some screenshots we share for peasants that aren't able to make it to this, I'm running out of words, make it to the live streams. Oh, that is so awesome. Cool. All right, we're gonna have a bit of a zoomed in one for epic effect. You really gotta see the whole thing though, to have the full effect. Maybe I'll just put like a small one right here so that we can just see like the whole model at once and see how cool the silhouette looks. And then we'll do a little zoomed in one next to it. There we go. Yeah, figuring it out. What makes a good screenshot? Harder than you think. Cool. And then we can even throw another. We've got more real estate fill up, so let's fill it up. Perfect. That's not really an interesting angle, so we'll get rid of that. Perfect. Big smile, and we're done. Sater says, that's why my basement is my next house project. I need space. Yeah, having a nice basement is the best. Yeah, you mentioned like basement is wet for now. Dude, like in the lighthouse shopping, like perusing that we're doing right now, anything that has a basement terrifies me. Like, they seem like a huge pain. The office is my wife's face, and she has no room for my shenanigans. That's very kind of you. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and keep on working here. She will need pants. So let's do a quick pant. Perfect. Simple dark green on that. And then I got some shoes I have planned I'm looking forward to. As well as some bracers, which are also going to have a bit of a leaf detail on them. This is going to become a full character, I have decided. I'm going to duplicate this, kind of cut off the top here, polish by features, and then make it a lighter green. And this is going to be kind of like this nice leafy detail on top. There we go. Excellent. For the other leaf, I'll make sure to make it a slightly different color just for readability. Perfect. And then for the shoes, which I hate doing shoes, they're gonna look like big silly socks for a little bit. And then I will slowly build them up into real shoes. Shoes are interesting because there's so much construction. I don't know if you guys, if we have any shoe enthusiasts here, but they're cool. There's just a lot going on for why they work the way they do. And there are no shortcuts when you 3D model them. You really need to make sure you have all the components, just like a real life shoe. So right now I'm kind of letting ZBrush handle this right here. It's kind of got a funny thing going on. because of the toes. So what I do is I keep simplifying the mesh until I have like a sock, and then I stretch that back over the toes. All right, we have the very, very early beginning of a shoe. Gonna flatten the bottom just a touch, and then use my inflate brush to offset it slightly. We're gonna make the front of the shoe a little bit longer, and then with a slight curve upwards. All right, very, very early shoe. It is happening. We'll also have another little leaf detail on the knee. And probably whatever leaf I create here, I will use in the future all over this mesh. But for now, it'll just be brown. Similar to last time, we'll actually use the crease brush to let the polish by features do a lot of the work for us. So I do crease and then poly loop, just like that, and then polish by features. And you'll notice it's starting to form a bit of this like nice sharp taper here for me automatically. I kind of just keep doing that. And I have a nice crease right on the front. All right. Slowly building this up. I think this model deserves a nicer belt too. All right, got a belt kind of started off here. It's the right color, but I want it to be symmetrical. So I'm gonna do mirror and weld, and then just inflate the entire thing. It's similar to the one that I already have attached to the bodice, but I'm gonna make a stronger, larger one here that'll just follow the same contour. Excellent. And then we'll do some sort of decorative center leaf badge or something later. All right, kind of got an outfit kind of blocked out here. So definitely a lot of work left to do. I think this is gonna be a really nice one. And definitely like a reusable asset gold mine, which is my favorite. Let's go ahead and create a hairstyle for this, because having it just totally bland is a little jarring and weird. So I am gonna put some hair on this model. Something simple and tucked. Kind of a lightish, maybe like a dirty blonde. Ooh, maybe more on this reddish aspect. I like that. Scoot this over just a touch. Perfect. And then get this hairline fit. There we go. It's definitely looking very a classic elf. Definitely like maybe a druid of sorts. So let's lean into that a touch more. I'm gonna mask just behind her ear, so that way when I kind of pull this cartilage up, we're not pulling any sections I didn't want. There we go. Then using a move topological brush, I can simply click and drag and start to form this ear shape. There we go. With that, of course, I think we can do a small smile, some higher cheekbones. Already looking a lot nicer. And then I'm a big fan of like droopy hair loops for some nice detail. I need to blend this line a touch more, but we're off to a really good start. Just like that, looking a lot less, not so eerie. So here says, looked like Joe Dirt before you scaled it down all the way. It really did. Joe Dirt is one of my husband's favorite movies, so bonus points for that. All right, I think we have a lot of these main pieces blocked out. Yeah, tell me you're a 90s kid without telling me you're a 90s kid. This is true. So we blocked out this entire thing also on stream. It's been a productive day. Also gonna need a nice staff here. I have one that'll be just perfect for this. Now that I'm here, I'm kind of torn between a couple of them. I think I'm gonna do this one with a swirl on it instead. And then a nice kite shield I think would be cool. Something with this basic shape, and I can develop this to look more wooden. This is actually pretty nicely modeled too, so it's a really good start. I'm gonna put this above her instead of off to the side because I'm gonna be working on it still. So I wanna keep it in the center of the scene. I'm gonna go ahead and delete all of these little nuts and bolts. We're not gonna need that. And then I'm going to subdivide a few times. Actually, I'm not. I'm gonna keep it really low poly and start changing the shape just as is. I want it to be more like a rounded leaf. That's exactly why I keep these meshes nice and simple, so it's easy for me to adjust them. There we go. That's a nicer shape for this. Let's go ahead and put a small bend arc on it as well. We're gonna go from the front axis and the side. I'd like if it didn't rip through itself, so we'll turn off symmetry and then do that one more time. There we go. Beautiful. And then maybe I will inscribe like a tree on this or something. Interesting. It does not exist halfway through. We can fix that by just nudging it over to the left slightly and then mirror and weld. Now I subdivide. Oh look, it exists again. Very good. All right, that is really all the work I needed to get done on this. Coming up on the 3-hour mark, so I'm gonna wrap this up and move us into last call. Looks like a dragon scale, kinda does. Before like all the wood texturing and stuff I'm gonna add. Alrighty, so we are now in last call. Essentially, this is the last phase of the stream. And this is where we review everything that we did today. This is also a great time to ask any final questions that you have, or if you're just popping in, say hi. So this was actually all done on stream today. This is all brand new. Obviously nothing too detailed or amazing going on here, but some pretty strong bones for a really cool character here. The main meat and potatoes of today's stream was the Duality Seraph. This turned out absolutely incredible. It is, you know, good and evil. in one model. And this is what we started with today. So in the last 3 hours, we blocked out that first character you saw, and then also got this lovely thing designed. It hasn't been post-processed for 3D printing. I reckon that will take another 10 minutes or so, and then we'll be all set. Pretty happy with this. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. This is always an absolute blast. If you're interested in making your own request for me to model on live stream, and you get the 3D printable files in addition to almost 1,000 other 3D printable files from me, check out my Patreon. It is free to join the community. Yes, it's free to join the community. And more importantly, I share a free STL every day, and we do have community goals. So in the last week or so, we have gained another 100 free members, which is awesome. And that's why I actually released a double freebie a couple days ago. We're already like almost halfway to the next freebie goal again. So if you want to help that effort along, join my Patreon for free and you can be part of that. So yeah. And then Sader says thank you for the mug. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm really happy. It's nice to see yours down there. So these mugs are directly below me. We have 4 members of the channel right now. And kind of like a fun thank you. We just make like pretty much themed mugs based on each person. Most people just tell me what they want. But if you're not picky, I'll just put your name on it. Not a big deal. For the most part, it's a lot of like inside jokes and stuff. It's pretty fun. I think that is a wrap though. Again, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I just absolutely love what I do, and I'll be here again, same time tomorrow. I pretty much start every single day around noon Eastern time. And sometimes as early as 11 or as late as 1 p.m., but pretty much noon every single day. Today is my 12th live stream in a row, and tomorrow's gonna make it 13. So pretty cool. Sater. Oh, so now I'm picky? You know what I mean. And yes, Sater. Actually, that's fair. I am. Beautiful. All right, y'all. You take care, and I'll see you tomorrow, okay? Bye.